Hey guys, it's Becky Chernek, and I hope I'm live here. And it is my F&I tips with Becky Chernek. So, welcome to the first and probably, hopefully, not the last F&I tips show that I do, but because I just felt like it's important really to get out in front of you all and talk about amazing F&I tips and strategies and techniques that I have learned over the years and working with some really talented folks over the years. And so, again, it is a pleasure to be here with you. So, as I navigate through this whole F&I tips. So, for those that are first joining this channel with me, I've been providing the very best in finance and insurance training for automotive dealers, and recreational power sport, RV dealers, independent dealers for the past 30 years. And I provide the very best when it comes to that finance and insurance training. So, again, if you like me, this is going live on LinkedIn as well as Facebook and YouTube. So please go ahead and like and then also share to others. I would greatly appreciate that. And then certainly I welcome your responses. Hey, Mike, good afternoon to you too. And I'm so glad that you were able to come on and say hello as I talk through some of our F&I tips today. And Larry Feldman, thank you again for being here. I certainly appreciate it. You are the man. I love it that you're here. Thank you, Mike and Larry, for attending my first F&I tip on Tuesday at 2 p.m. So again, guys, if you like, please go ahead and hit the like button. And also, please, if you would, please share as well and get the news out that we're doing these F&I tips every Tuesday at 2 p.m. So today, I just want to talk about, this is 15 minutes. I want to talk about rehashes. And the reason I want to talk about rehashes is because I got a phone call, well, the other day, and it really hit me hard about how many F&I people are saying, hey, we can't rehash anymore because most of our lenders are all, really buying internally. It's not like it used to be where, maybe you could go ahead and budge that lender to go ahead and pick up a conditional approval or even a decline. And I'm like, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. Although, oh, look at who it is, Miss Katie. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And I miss talking to you. So let's pick up the phone, girl. Give me a call. I want to see how you're doing. And I know you got a new role, so we have to talk a little bit about what you're doing with that. And so that is probably very exciting. So I'm glad that you're here. So we are talking about, F&I tips and rehashes. And so anyway, I am on the phone and with this dealer, and they're telling me their F&I managers are saying, hey, we can't rehash. It's all about internal scoring today. And I'm like, I don't know. Certainly I understand internal scoring. I get that whole thing. But is that really the case that we can't pick up a phone? We don't have lenders that are relationship lenders. And I got to tell you, we still do. We still have several relationship lenders where you can pick up the phone, and if in fact you know something about the customer, you have met the customer earlier on. I'm hoping F&I, we're meeting customers at the salesperson's desk, and we're getting to know more about that customer and the reasons why their credit was slow, what happened, what's changed, why won't it happen again? Get that story to share with the lender. And here's the thing, they want those phone calls. The problem is they're not getting these phone calls. So I am at another dealership doing consultation, and I said to the F&I person, I said, pick up the phone. When's the last time you picked up the phone and contacted the lender and asked them, oh, I don't know, for anything, just another month, 3 months to extend the term? And wouldn't you know it, they had never thought to do that. Can I tell you what 3 months of term can really do for a deal and how we can maximize profits on that? Not to mention, certainly another product, but certainly also a better payment option. So you've got to think through it, and you've got to know your lenders inside and out. You've got to know your niche. What is that niche? And the fact that you're shotgunning deals left and right to see your best shot is not the way to go. You really need to know who's going to buy what and under what type of specific guidelines. And that's so that really is, really understanding that customer, understanding the reasons behind that slow pay history. And then in turn, what we want to be able to do is also determine lender guideline. How does lender guideline match that customer's loan to value, obviously their credit and credit criteria as it pertains to that specific lender? And so you have to match the two. It's really, frankly, an art of making sure that you have that valid information firsthand from the customer that you share with your lender. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not on the phone, if you're not calling your lender, and if you're not asking for more, you're just not maximizing profits. Lenders will buy more, even if you have to go back into the deal and maybe ask the customer for additional money down. Cash is always king. Or perhaps maybe we ask for a little bit more in that trade-in value, can make the biggest difference in getting that approval. It's the little things we do sometimes that can make the absolute impact in our overall performance. But it's also those little things that we do, the extra months, 2 months, 3 months, that helps us to sell the additional product that that customer can likely afford. So that's what I want you to do. What I want you to do is I don't want you to listen to everybody else telling you that you can't rehash deals, that lenders don't rehash deals. Don't listen to that. What I want you to do instead is I want you to look at the lenders that you have. And from those lenders, look at their guidelines. And if you don't have a relationship with a relationship bank, make it a point to make sure that you do establish that relationship. And I think I might have a comment here. Mike says you have to dial for dollars. Amen. You certainly do. Um, Interaction with your buyer will help develop future buys and build your skill set for future deals. Don't just accept an instant approval. And that's what I'm hearing, Mike. I'm glad you were able to provide some feedback here. And it's not just on me, but it's just because you got an internal response doesn't necessarily mean that we're not digging deeper to find out the reasons for that slow pay history. And from understanding that customer slow pay history, the guidelines, our lender guidelines, and our relationships can make a big difference. Just don't take no for an answer the first call. Put that sales hat on with that lender as you do with a customer. My boss years back, and I won't share his name, but he did tell me. He says, "Let me explain who you are in the dealership, Becky. As an F&I director, you're going to be the attorney for the dealership. That is who you are, and that's what you do. And your job isn't to go ahead and acknowledge the reasons why the lender's not going to buy the deal. Instead, your job is to figure out, how do we get this deal purchased by the lender? And with a good valid story, not a made up story, but a real genuine authentic story. Bad things happen to good people all the time. So let's figure out, what is it that caused that customer to have that slow pay history to begin with? And what we want to do from there is, again, with that relationship bank, we want to make it a point to make sure that that lender understands the reasons for that slow pay history. And a lot of times too, sometimes I'll even have the customer write out a brief summary, or not even a summary, a couple of questions, not questions, points, as to the reasons why for their slow pay history. So maybe 2 sentences for the reason for their slow pay history that I like to share sometimes with the lender is it really hits home sometimes because they don't see this very often, right? Because nobody's doing their homework and nobody's getting in and really finding out the reason for that slow pay history and talking to the lender, picking up the phone and asking for more. And then if we would just ask for, like I said earlier, even if it's just an extra 1, 2, 3 months in term, or if in the event we're looking for a different dollar amount, where are we as far as loan to value? How does that lender buy? Is the lender picking up on Experian versus Equifax? Do you know the difference between the two and why that's so important? Some of our lenders will pick up NADA retail as opposed to invoice. Do we know what lenders offer that option or pick up via Experian versus Equifax? And let's face it, Experian, frankly, pulls a higher FICO score than perhaps Equifax. So if in the event we have a low Equifax report, wouldn't it stand to reason that we would also want to go ahead, pull an Experian report? And if in the event, and also TransUnion, I don't want to leave them out, but if in the event we have a higher FICO score with TransUnion versus Experian, let's go ahead and from there, let's look at the lenders that we have a relationship with, or at least understand that we'll likely be able to get more approved through one lender because, frankly, they look at one different report than perhaps another lender would. But Mike, your dad, thank you very much. I'm glad you were able to share your feedback. And from a GM perspective, I got to tell you, it's so true. When we're not out there, we're not meeting the customer, we're not getting involved earlier on in the sale. This is where deals are made. So sometimes too, guys, I got to tell you, gals and guys, you got to get out on the desk. You got to meet customers on their terms. Okay. We've got to get involved sooner rather than later. By the time that deal makes its or wraps its, that deal wraps up in that F&I office, it's too late. What we want to do is we got to get to that deal sooner rather than later. So again, guys, I want to thank you so much for being on my 15-minute F&I Tips Tuesday at 2 p.m. And if you will, please share. And whatever you do, pick up the phone and will you call the lender already and ask them for more? Know your stuff. Know it inside and out. Meet the customer firsthand before you take the customer into the F&I office and review some of the information. Find out what's the reason behind that slow pay history. Don't take the call firsthand from that desk. And Katie says, I think sales managers need additional training to understand this as well, since they are submitting more and more from the desk. Amen. They do. They really do. Because Katie, I'm sure you're seeing as much as I do. These guys, I mean, they're submitting deals. They're shotgunning these deals. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know their lenders. And since when do we know a sales manager? And don't get me wrong, guys. I'm sure that there are plenty of sales managers who get up off the desk, go out, meet the customer, review the transaction to make sure that all the information's correct. I know that they do that, right? Gotcha. That may not necessarily be happening as much as we would like it to happen, right, Katie? So here's the thing. If that's not happening from a sales manager, what's happening in F&I? And is F&I getting out there, as Katie said, to assure that that deal is correct, to validate it? That in and of itself is important. I can tell you how many times deals get called in that are not correct. And in fact, the customer actually makes more income than what was stated or submitted to the lender. So it really is important. Double check, fact find, make sure that when you're submitting the deal, it's correct. And F&I, do not take that deal at face value. You need to be on the desk. You need to be participating, engaging. Two heads will always be better than one. And you've got to be out there and meeting that customer and finding out the reasons for that slow pay history. What happened? what's changed, and why it won't happen again. And then from there, you've got your story. Go back in, go with the lenders that you know that you have this really rock solid relationship with and say, hey, you're not going to believe this story. I have to share this with you. And maybe, maybe it still might be a conditioned call, but it's a better call than what you might have had before. Okay, guys, I promised you only 15 minutes. It's just 15 minutes on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Please share, guys. I hope that you like the idea behind the F&I tips. And if there's any other tips you'd like to me to share for you on your behalf, just give me a call. Just email me at becky@chernekconsulting.com. And I'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you again, guys. Oh, wait a minute. What do I have here? Okay. All right. I got it. All right. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you being on. And till next Tuesday, F&I tips.